thanks to SACS again for organizing another successful event. Thanks to everybody who's participating with all the thoughtful discussions and presentations this morning and into the afternoon. I'm sure it'll be a success throughout the day. For those who are in the room for the panel session that John Walsh from Unlearn was on, you heard him mention some of these concepts around digital twins and how they can be used to help companies developing neuroscience drugs run faster trials. And the way that we do that is we can enhance precision of the trial and help you reduce placebo so you can understand if your drug worked faster. So the focus of this talk is really to nail that concept, and hopefully people walk away with some intriguing understanding of how AI and digital twins can help. So at Unlearn, we work across many different indications, including neuroscience indications and rare neuroscience. And we see this same debate happening, or the same idea in clinical development teams, that they're trying to really achieve three things. They want to run trials that have as low a burden on the trial participants as possible, generate the highest quality evidence so they can understand if their drug in fact worked, and ultimately achieve registration with the regulatory agencies. And third, do this at the speed of light, not the blink of an eye, as was mentioned on the panel just a moment ago. Really, really challenging to do. And there's many options that we see companies thinking about. One is to run a more traditional randomized controlled study, challenging to do, especially in rare and orphan indications, and they want to do this in a way that's really well-powered so that they can understand if their drug worked. There's benefits and drawbacks to this. One of the big drawbacks is, especially for modalities that are gene therapy or cell therapy, where you have to often go through surgical implantation or other more invasive means of giving the drug to the patients, there's a really high burden on the trial participants. They're sick, they do not want to receive placebo or some sort of sham surgery. They want the investigational drug to see if it worked. One of the benefits is that these types of trials are considered the gold standard. So they generate high quality evidence when the drug in fact works, and these are the preferred types of trials that the main regulatory agencies want to see. But because they're bigger, because they have a treatment group and control group, and if you want to highly power your study, they're often large and hard to enroll for patients, so they're slow. On the opposite end of the spectrum would be to run a single-arm study where you only have patients enrolling in a treatment group, and you use some sort of assumptions about the control response that otherwise would have happened in your trial, and you can try and understand if your drug worked. Again, benefits and drawbacks to this approach as well. The low burden on the trial participant is one of the main benefits. Every trial participant will receive the investigational drug, so if it works, you're going to be able to help those patients treat or cure their disease much faster. The biggest drawback that we see is that the evidence oftentimes is not as high quality as you would like. You see companies like Unicure in the Huntington space announcing that they can run a single-arm trial, and the FDA may allow this to support registration, but what you often see is they're still going to have to run a next stage randomized controlled study once the drug is on the market to understand if it in fact works. Another main benefit here, though, is the speed. So these are often much faster because the trials are smaller. And so when we engage with companies and they start to think about using the Unlearn platform and digital twins in their studies, they're really stuck in this space. They're in the yellow area and sort of lukewarm tea. They want to reduce the burden, and they debate on how they can do that. They want to generate the highest quality evidence, and so they start thinking about, do I run a single-arm study or a randomized controlled study or like a hybrid controlled type of study? And then they start to kind of sacrifice some speed for all of those. And they're really stuck in the middle, and they spend a lot of time debating on what to do before they even move forward. And they really want to be here. This is the first sort of meter slide that I showed. So the biggest question at Unlearn that we've been trying to solve recently is, how do we help companies get to this place, or at least as close as we can, as fast as possible, so they can run their trials efficiently, get effective drugs to market to ultimately treat patients. So that's what Digital Twins, the Unlearn platform, will help you do. Can we achieve nirvana and run a single-arm trial for every indication in the world and the agencies will accept the evidence? The answer is no, but we can help you get as close as possible to that. So we do this across the industry, big and large. Some of the companies that we partner with are shown there. I'm sure you've heard of the bigger names. Some of the smaller ones are in the neuroscience space, so perhaps you've heard of those as well. And then showing some of the impact numbers of what we've achieved in the industry to date. So we have shown we can increase the chances of observing meaningful treatment effect by 75% in early stage studies. This leverages a lot of advanced uses of digital twins that we won't get into too much today. What we'll focus on largely is in the middle there, is reducing the sizes of studies to be able to reduce enrollment timelines and ultimately save costs and get the trials completed faster, and for when drugs are effective, get them to market faster. We won't touch on this much today either, but in the single arm regime, which you often see in early stage studies, we can create a digital twin of each person so that you can understand at the participant level what exact components are you measuring in the study that are showing efficacy signals for those patients. The digital twins are brought to our customers through what we call the Unlearn platform, that is a software interface, and it allows them to achieve what is shown on the 4 boxes on this slide. We'll focus here today largely on the one on the right, which is to run smaller, faster, highly powered clinical trials. So we've been talking about digital twins. John mentioned them beforehand, and I've been saying that word a lot. So what is a digital twin of a person? That term is used broadly across many industries. If you go to digitaltwins.com, you're routed to GE's website because they create digital twins of jet turbines when they're trying to manufacture them. So in the traditional sense of the digital twin, it's a computer model of a system that exists in the world, and you want to prompt various scenarios to improve engineering design. Now, we can't engineer a human necessarily today, so what we mean by digital twin is we can take a patient's snapshot of their disease at baseline, and we ask an AI model that we've pre-trained, given the patient's snapshot of their disease at baseline, how will their disease progress through time? How will it change over time? And that change, that forecast of how their disease will change, is what we refer to as a patient's digital twin. So we spend a lot of time collecting data for various indications or developing new ways to train on trial data that allow us to have these pre-trained models. And then as each patient enrolls into the study, we can ask the model, here's patient X's baseline data, here's Andrew's baseline data, and it'll predict how the disease will change over time. What you'll see throughout the rest of the talk today is that at the core of it, what this allows you to do in a clinical trial is reduce the variability, effectively shrinking the error bars on what you're measuring. And when you have that reduced variance, that's what allows you to run trials that are either highly powered, more highly powered, or with the same power in a smaller sample size. Let's see if this will work. All right, so I think this will work. I recorded a bit of a video because that static image of a digital twin isn't always that compelling to see, so I recorded a bit of a video that should go through. This is the homepage of the Unlearn platform, and it's really the portal through which our partners and clients get access to deliverables like digital twins, analyses that we've done, and gives them tools to plan how they can use digital twins to run smaller, faster, and highly powered trials. The purpose of pulling this up today and walking through it for the NIF presentation is twofold. One is to clarify and show you what a digital twin of a clinical trial participant is and provide some real granular context around that. And second is to show you how digital twins can be used to help you run smaller, faster, highly powered trials. So if we go into the ALS demo environment, we can pull up what we call the digital twins dashboard. And if we click over to the Composite Component Analysis tab and take a look at the ALS-FRS-R score, what you're looking at are digital twins of trial participants who have enrolled into a study. So we took their baseline data, we prompted the digital twin generator for ALS and said, given their baseline data, how will their placebo outcomes progress through time? And what you're looking at is a prediction of every single component of the ALS-FRS-R score. You can look at different scores as well and see you get comprehensive predictions for all the participants who enrolled into your study. So that's all well and good that you can make these predictions. The question is, how good are they and how can they be used? So suffice to say, the better predictions, the smaller, more powerful we can make your trial. So let's say you're working in an ALS study, you want to use digital twins in your study, you're working with Unlearn, and you want to explore various trial designs and see how much smaller and faster or more powerful you can make your studies. So you can pull up the trial design page that we have, and you can begin to input your trial design parameters. So let's say you're going to measure ALS-FRS-R as your primary endpoint. You assume your expected effect size is 2. You're trying to power to 80% at an alpha level of 0.05. Treatment duration is 12 months. And you're going to have FVC as a secondary endpoint. Now let's also say you have 2 treatment arms because you're going to test 2 doses and you want to randomize it a 2 to 2 to 1 ratio. When you work with Unlearn, what you can do is you can see based on the performance of the model. So what this is showing you is the ALS digital twin generator has accurate predictions sufficient to give you this benefit. So let's say you really want to reduce sample size as much as possible. When you use Unlearn, you can go from about a 28-month enrollment duration down to 20 months, maintain your power on your primary outcome. You have achieved that reduction in enrollment duration by reducing the number of participants in your study, and you still have high power on your secondary outcomes. Now, let's say you're not interested in reducing sample size. You want to maximize power, really increase your chances as much as possible to observe a treatment effect. So in this case, you can simply use digital twins to add as much power to your study as possible. You maintain the same enrollment period. You now have boosted power over 90% for your primary outcome. Of course, the enrollment is this, or the number of participants are the same because you decided not to reduce sample size, and you've boosted power on your secondary outcomes. Now, you don't have to do only one or the other. You can go in the middle, and let's say you're interested in getting a bit of both. So you want to reduce some sample size, but you also want to boost in power. Here you can go from 28 months down to 23 in enrollment by reducing sample size and get a significant boost in power in your primary and secondary outcomes. So if you look at the thing on the right, what you're looking at is an example record of a ALS participant's digital twin. And what we've done is we're showing here the baseline data. So this is the actual snapshot of their disease state in gray. This is what's measured on the patient. This is what is input into the model. And then everything to the right in the black and the purple, these are the predictions. So at 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, and so on, what will the actual measurement be? So if you're looking at the different components of the ALS-FRS-R score, you get a prediction for each one of those. If you're measuring a biomarker, other clinical outcomes, all those are the digital twin of that participant. In addition to that, what I think John had touched on in the previous panel was this approach of using digital twins within a framework of what's called covariate adjustment is what the EMA and FDA has qualified Unlearn's technology on. And also, even better so, sponsors who work with us or even independently have gone to the FDA and EMA and said, I want to use Unlearn in my trial for disease X that's upcoming. Do you have any objections to that? And the answer has been consistently no. And if you look at the guidance that they just released, the FDA just released last week, everything that we do around ensuring the risk of using our AI models in trials is low is exactly what's laid out. You need to test the model, understand where it may cause potential issues, and then mitigate against those issues for your trial so that you don't risk running a trial that ultimately reads out in between and doesn't give a definitive answer if a drug worked. So I'll go through a reanalysis here of a trial that we looked at. So we got access to the data set for the trial of ceftriaxone. That's a hard one to say. And we reanalyzed it to ask the question, had you run this study with Unlearn, how much smaller could you have made the study? Or how much more powerful could you have made the study to better resolve whether or not the drug is in fact working? So we won't go through all the details here. The main things to focus on for the study is that it had enrolled and completed 513 participants in a 2-to-1 ratio. The primary outcome was ALS-FRS-R, and there were several other secondary outcomes that the trial looked at. When you look at the standard approach, which is to use something like the baseline score of ALS-FRS-R as an adjustment to try and add power to your study, you effectively get no gains or very marginal gain. Here it went from an 80% powered study up to 80.1. If you create a digital twin for each participant who enrolled in the study, and you reanalyze the data set as though you had included digital twins into the study, you go from a study that was powered at 80% up to 87%. What this really means, ultimately, is shown in purple on the right, is that you've now increased your chances of observing a treatment effect by 35%. And that's substantial because if the drug works, you're lowering your rate of actually type 2 error, which is you didn't observe a treatment effect when the drug in fact worked because the trial was underpowered. If we look at the other way of using digital twins in a study, which is to reduce the size of placebos, you can reduce the size of the placebo group in this study by 23%, which for actual numbers is 40 fewer patients in the placebo arm. So the study was randomized 2-to-1. You could have had 40 fewer patients in the placebo arm, which would have allowed this study to enroll the study upwards of 4 months faster and have significant cost savings. If you assume a clinical trial participant cost to enroll and have them in the study is $100,000, then this is upwards of $4 million in savings for this trial. In addition to that, what you didn't get to see through the demo is that digital twins have these predictions of all primary and secondary outcomes. And we looked in to see how many studies fail to observe statistical significance in their secondary endpoints. Of course, the primary outcome is the most important. You need to achieve what you said you're going to achieve in terms of treatment effect at a power level and an alpha level that you pre-specify. But the clinical development teams that we work with also want to know what's happening across all the secondary outcomes, even if it's for better understanding or even for market access purposes in the future. They want to have a comprehensive view across all outcomes, how their drug is affecting patients. So this is a view that you would have seen had the video worked in the software of what it looks like when you have outcomes of all the different item level components. You can have a bunch of different primary and secondary outcomes plotted. So what you're looking at here on the right is actual digital twin predictions from the patients in the ceftriaxone trial. And this is a prediction for the entire patient population, but this is what their ALS-FRS-R respiratory insufficiency score is and all the different components here. The demo that I had put together also showed ALS-FRS-R, forced vital capacity, NFL, and so forth, but the video didn't work, so I apologize for that. Suffice to say, because you get a prediction for every outcome in the trial, you're able to boost power or reduce sample size across any of those that you would like. So really the plot here that's the most important is on the bottom. In this particular study, they had pre-specified several secondary outcomes they wanted to look at. So ALS-FRS-R was the primary, but they also looked at the RES score, the Bulbar score, and forced vital capacity. And what you're seeing here is you have the 87% power boost on the first column, and you're seeing a power boost for all the secondary outcomes as well next to that. So that shows that the digital twins are good predictors of all these outcomes, and they can help you boost statistical power in your study across whatever you're measuring. So I want to thank everybody for their time. I hope it's a better understanding of what digital twins are and how they can help you run smaller, faster, highly powered studies. Thanks.